Welcome to a new series of talks that I am calling Adventures in Producing. My name is Wendy Mitchell. I'm a film journalist and film festival consultant, and I have so much admiration for independent producers that I thought we don't pay them enough attention. I know so many amazing producers who've had all kinds of adventures that I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth to some of them. And I hope whoever's watching will enjoy this, maybe learn something, and also tip your hat to these amazing producers. I'm starting the series with a lot of women producers because I want to lift up the sisterhood as well. So, this is Adventures in Producing, and I am really glad my first guest is here with us today. This is Farah Abushwesha. She is an Irish born, Libya raised, London based, BAFTA nominated producer. Her company is Rockcliff, and she's also the creator of the BAFTA-Raw New Writing Competition and Showcase, which really helps emerging talent. A really great scheme, so go Google that. She was a Screen International Star of Tomorrow in 2017. She worked in shorts before working as a production coordinator on Tom Harper's Scouting Book for Boys. Then she worked as a line producer on The Comedian and The Rise, also known as Wasteland. She co-produced Pressure, then produced Danny Huston's The Last Photograph. She produced Irreplaceable You, which you can watch on Netflix, and that starred Gugu Mbatha-Raw and Christopher Walken. She produced the Agatha Christie adaptation ABC Murders for BBC One, starring John Malkovich, and then also The Singapore Grip for ITV, which she also shot partially in Malaysia. She has somehow also found time to write two books, and they are Rockliffe Notes, a professional approach for screenwriters and writer-directors, and Rockcliff Notes on low-budget filmmaking. Both books are so full of practical advice. I really can recommend them. Farah, you're a busy woman. Thank you for joining today.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Very excited to see where this adventure takes us.
Yes, thank you. So I guess first of all, did you always know you might want to be a producer rather than a director or a writer or work in distribution or exhibition?
I mean, the words distribution and exhibition really weren't in my vocabulary. I mean, that was just, whatever was on at a local museum, to be perfectly honest. I mean, like most people, I didn't know what this was. I knew about playwrights, I knew about theatre, I knew about actors, I kind of knew about directors. I knew there was this mystique around them, but I never kind of understood how it all came together. So I kind of went down the acting route because just not knowing what else there was. And so yeah, I went to a theatre school in Paris, which was a lot of fun, a bilingual theatre school. And then came out of that. We did a lot of improv, which I didn't really like, and it was very French and very, you know, intellectual approaches to kind of screen, you know, being an actor. And then slowly kind of started to be introduced to different kind of forms of theatre and films. I got sick in Paris, and a friend of mine brought me over a whole load of VHSs of films because I had to stay inside. In France at the time, you were only allowed out between 10 and 12 and 4 and 6 when you were sick, and they would come around and check you because they'd give you this great sort of sick pay to stay at home. And yeah, these videos came in, and it was Delicatessen, there was incredible films, and I was like, oh my God, it was just like opening my mind and my world to something else. And that kind of started me thinking, well, why am I doing all this kind of really serious, heavy stuff when I wanted to be doing things that are much lighter and eccentric? And I started to sort of write things and explore things in a very different way. And then a friend of mine made a short film, and I was possibly the worst behaved actor ever. Which he regularly reminds me of to this day. Yeah, and that was kind of, it was a silent film, and we shot it in our apartment. But I think that was the moment when I kind of saw things in a very different way. And so I came back, went to still kind of thinking about the acting, because it's also about thinking what you've got permission to do and what you don't. And that's all I knew to do. And I went to drama school, and I was very good at getting people together and cajoling my fellow students. And I mean, you know me, that's kind of what I do. It's like, I love organizing piss up, even, anything, any kind of organizing stuff to get us all together. Um, I did. And then we moved, when I came out of drama school, I just couldn't find any kind of material for women who were in their, 25 and weren't that kind of skinny, tall, blonde, kind of model-esque, or having the confidence of what is a skinny tall blonde. But there wasn't anything that I could really get my hands on. So shooting people had just started up at the time, and that was a real connector of people and different ways of doing things, and different approaches. And so I started to run some short film screenings with through that, and advertise them on there, and then sort of looked at the script of the short films and then thought, oh, this is really interesting. So set up Rockcliffe by getting writers, actors, directors, produced together in a room, and kind of getting actors, to work with the directors. And I remember there was like 8 people turned up to the first one, and then 26 to the second one. And then suddenly we're 40, and we're like all squished into this tiny room. Not possible, in for any health and safety reasons today. And then, we had to move venues, and then it became a more regular thing. And then people started sending in scripts, and it just kind of grew from there. And the appetite has always been there to get together and share ideas and talk about materials. Because we used to do that in drama school. We'd sit and read through scripts and stuff and go through and share ideas and talk about the parts. And I think I've brought that sort of thing from drama, from learning as an actor, into producing. And then a script came about about a desperate woman who breaks into a sperm bank. We thought, let's produce it. And Victoria Goodall, a very dear friend of mine, sort of helped out, sort of being this exec producer. It was her husband was the director, and we hadn't a clue what we were doing. But we went out to Cannes and asked every man to donate their sperm and give us the proceeds. And this is the biggest mistake of my career, and one of the biggest regrets that I have, is that we should have, everybody was saying, why aren't you making a feature film? Why aren't you doing this? And we thought it was a rites of passage that you had to make a short film first, and only then could you make a feature. What idiots were we? We should have just made a feature film at that point. And I think things would be a lot different. But we didn't. We thought we had to kind of wait for permission and go through this journey.
That's a great piece of advice, because sometimes I see some people getting many, many thousands of pounds of funding to make a short, and you think they could make a low budget feature. So that's a great piece of advice, that you don't have to start with a short. Maybe it is good training for some people. But how did you then move from shorts into the feature side? I guess you were more of a line producer then.
Yeah, I went through the production route. I felt that Rockcliffe, as the initiative, was giving me a lot of kind of development learning. So I needed to learn about the physical side of production, and I didn't know what that meant either. But I thought, well, the best way to learn it is actually, in the production office. And I was very lucky in that I got made redundant from my temping job in the city. I'd taken on the job full time. And my boss said, he said, look, there's a major recession coming. I think this is 2008. He said, do you want to take, some redundancy, and that way you can go off and do the kind of films that you want to do? And I mean, what a great boss. I mean, we're still friends today. And Giles, bless him. And I did that, and I took the money, and I went off and I worked on a few like films. One was a pickup shoots, additional photography on a Paul Andrew Williams film, The Cottage. And then there was a French film that Philippe Lioré came over to do. And I worked on that. That was just the English part of the shoot. And then there was another film by Rachid Bouchareb we did. And then Andrea Cornwell very kindly brought me on with Vanna McKinnon onto Scouting Book for Boys, which was Jack Thorne and Tom Harper's featured debut. And it was amazing. and we were on location, and I've met people who are great friends still to today, and form part of my life, just as friends, from that. And I'm really, it was one of those films that absolutely was a turning point. There was before Scouting Book and after Scouting Book, for me, and I think for a few other people as well. And there are certain films that are kind of, they're markers in the sand, and each one gives you a different gift. They're not all pleasant experiences, and that's something that I thought just happened to me. And then some of them were great experiences, and when they were bad experiences, that only was exclusively reserved for me. And now that I've got a wider circle of producers to produce Anonymous, this kind of network that Camille Gatton and Sandra Seagsgard and myself have kind of set up and move, you kind of hear other stories from other people, and they're pretty, yeah, I mean, I don't know how we keep going sometimes. It's like, and no lesson is ever learned twice. It's like there's always a new one that you least expect.
Yeah, and then how did you feel, you used that word sort of permission before. How did you feel you had sort of permission to produce a feature film? I guess you had met Danny Huston on
Pressure.
Pressure, and then he saw a spark in you that he knew you could produce. Was that when you sort of felt permission, or had it been growing?
Oh, it was always there.
Yeah.
It was always there, but there were many reasons not to do it. I'm not experienced enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. There's a million voices in your head telling you why you shouldn't do something, and then there's that little voice that tells you that this is the only thing that you can do. And it's really hard to listen. It's the same kind of voice that you listen to that tells you that this is a great film. And those, when I pick up something, I never question that whether I can produce it or not. Certainly not now. I know that this is something I need to make. Um, but there's so many voices that you have in your head that will tell you all the reasons why you can't do something. And then there's a point where you get to where you realize that you have to do it. You just have to do it. And I think that came for me on several levels. It came for me because I felt that I was giving so much to line producing other people's films who had less experience than me. That's not a bad thing. They believed in themselves enough to just go through themselves in. And I thought, why am I doing that too? Because that's what I do, and I'm doing this, but not with the same. I'm giving my all, and actually I should give my all to my own projects. And you know when that happened with Danny, I was so kind of going, wow. But he's right, because I deliver. I'm a hard worker. you know I find a way. The producer knows there's no such way as no. There's no such thing as no. There's always a way. It may not be the way you think it is, but there's always a way. It's a bit like a writer writing a script. Like, you may give them a note on something that's not working. Your note about what you suggest they could do to make it work may not be the part of the note that they take to make it work, but they'll work on that bit. Am I making sense? That needs the work. Do you know what I mean? So it may not be the answer that you give, but there's a way. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what happened to me. And that was a really interesting project with Danny, and he's great. And he had a part of him that was Irish too. There's that link with his dad, with Ireland, and it was great to work with him. And he wanted to go back to his directing roots, which is how he started out as a director. And it was, the last photograph was where I had to kind of put my thinking cap on and go, how do we make this work? We've got 3 different timelines. We've got a very low budget, which is what we wanted to do it. We wanted it to be low budget. So I turned it into blocks and did it in blocks, and we did it different times a year. In fact, there's 4 blocks now that I think about it, because we went and shot all the Christmas lights
Wow.
In January, but we didn't actually shoot till May. But it was that kind of holistic approach that we had to filmmaking. And those were the kind of ideas that, I brought to the table. I just look at it in a very different way to the normal way of looking at it. But yeah, I just knew that I could do this, and I did it. And then it took a very long time to finish. And then so the last photograph happened, and then in the meantime I decided that I really needed to focus on my own voice as a producer and the kind of things that I wanted to make. And it was 2015, and the 1916 centenary was coming up, and I saw that Screen Ireland were advertising for films, short films they're going to make for 100K for the 1916 Rising to commemorate that. And they wanted films that kind of encapsulated the 100 years since the Irish rose up against the British government and demanded their emancipation. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And I also thought about Libya and how things had changed from Libya. Since this is like 10 years since the revolution as well, and like how have things changed in that time. And I realized that young men are sent out to fight fires and battles that older men have created. They send the young men to war. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And I had a conversation with Conor McNeil, a writer, an actor who had featured at Rockcliffe in 2010. And we bumped into each other at BAFTA at a short film screening with Boogaloo and Graham. He was with That Crown and Martin McCann. And we just had a chat. We met for coffee, and he said, he really wanted to write. And so he had these 3 ideas, one of which was about a party that his parents were at in the 70s, because I wanted to capture something that was to do with Northern Ireland, because I felt that Northern Ireland and the troubles that had happened really were a direct result to the 1916 Rising, and when Ireland got divided up into the North and the Republic from 32 counties to 26, with 6 up north. And I thought this is a great way to do it and to remind people of what those times were like. And that was the first time I was looking for a director, and I knew I wanted to work with a female director. I'm sorry, a director who's female, because we don't say male director, do we?
No.
We don't say male writer. So I keep correcting myself on that, because I think that's really important that we change the language. And I'm equally as responsible for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and actually, yeah, anyway, I'll keep going this one. And then I met Andrea Harkin, who had been recommended to us also because she's Irish. And turns out that she and Connor had talked about a feature film in the past, so they knew each other. And it was St. Patrick's Day 2015, and we were in an Irish pub, and we had a chat, and that's when The Party was born as a short film. And then we entered it in to Screen Ireland, or the film board as it was then. And yeah, the rest is history. We shot it. We actually shot it in Ireland and a little bit here in England as well. There's the phone box scene when they're on the phone together. And that really changed things, because so I'd gone from features back to making shorts.
I think a lot of people are scared to do that sometimes. And I think it can be such a creative liberation. Yeah. And it really, I mean, The Party was so acclaimed that I think, yeah, that really did change your career again.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it went, it had the BAFTA nomination, the European Film Academy nomination. I mean, it did loads of festivals, introduced me to Dean Art, which was one of my favorite festivals with Fanny. And oh, I love that. And it really did. And, and the cast from that have gone on to amazing things like Eileen O'Higgins, Anthony Boyle, they've all done. Andrea's doing really well, so is Connor. I mean, so I'm really proud of where we are at now. And it did change things, absolutely. There was before the party and after the party. And I also made another film the following year, a short film called Cake, and that was around the time that I was working on Irreplaceable You, which came to me as a script. And honestly, I have a really weird relationship with scripts when they come. I have to feel an energy and see stars. I don't know if that's sort of the Irish Libyan superstitious kind of sort of witch in me, but I actually have to feel an energy from something. And or maybe it's the energy of me being able to work on it. I don't know. It's and make it happen. Yeah. But honestly, it was Irreplaceable You. When Stephanie sent me that script, I was like, I have to make this. And actually, my friend remembers me saying that. She remembers me walking down the street going, I have to make this. I didn't know how to make it. It was set in New York. It was with an American cast. I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
now that I look back at it, it was like mad.
And what was it like both working in the US for the first time and it was a Netflix project? What did you learn from all that?
You know, I think I learned that I didn't enjoy it as much as I should have enjoyed it, because it was so stressful. I mean, it was really, really stressful. Working in America, it's very different to working in Europe, in the UK. I mean, it's first and foremost, it's a business out there. And we have so much sort of money from the government here that's incredible, the support that we have to make work. Whereas over there, it's like angels and investors and studios. And if you want to circumvent the studio system, you're looking at private investors, and it's a business investment for them. So, all of them, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And everything comes with a price tag. And that was so my nose is really itchy. Of course, it's really itchy whilst I'm doing something like this. But
She's
yeah,
not crying about John Malkovich, everybody. It's
I
just
know,
who knows.
John. Oh,
Yeah.
bless. I do love John. But yeah, so it comes with a price tag, and it's a different way of working, and there are unions and there are roles and there's hierarchy. But it introduced me to a whole wealth of knowledge that I didn't know about. And in answer to your question about Netflix, they came on board, I think, a week before we shot. And it was because the cast kept changing. I mean, we had so many amazing cast attached who, for one reason or another, had to jump onto other productions, which happens. Um, and we were so lucky, at the last minute, one of the actors that we had involved, who was really hot at the time, um, ended up, and I can't say who it is, ended up falling off it because the dates shifted. And we went from him to Christopher Walken, who was, I think, of a bit of, well, we might as well ask him. I mean, what's the worst thing that he can say? It's no. He said yes. And he was just amazing. I remember the day he came in, I just was like, oh my God. And there's a wonderful day, which is, we filmed, and it was 2 days filming actually, but the first day, and I'm looking around this room, and there's Kate McKinnon, there's Christopher Walken, there's Steve Coogan, there's Gugu Mbatha-Raw, and there's all these incredible sort of comedic actors improving and riffing off each other. And I thought, and they're all knitting. And I thought, oh my God, I made this happen. I'm part of this machine that's made it happen. Stephanie and I made this happen. Oh my God, somebody pinch me, and it is a bit like that. You look at it and you go, I'm really not quite sure how we got here, but we did. And I know that it's literally me on my knees, crawling up a hill on glass, pulling that boulder, up that hill to make that happen. And that's, what we did that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my head what we did. And it's sheer determination and belief and a lot of sweat, a lot of tears. And I'm not the only producer who does that. You really have to believe in your projects. And so when I say to people, I really have to like your project so much to make it. I can't just kind of like it. I kind of just can't be partly on board. I have to really love it, which, you know, I loved Ilkley,
Hmm.
by Harry and Helen, and
This is
that,
Harry Michelle's film that might have a new title now. Does it?
Say Your Prayers.
Say Your Prayers. Thank you.
I forgot that. Say Your Prayers. And that was Andy Brunskill, another producer, said, look, I'm executing this. Would you like to come on board? We're helping Helen out. And I read the script and I went, this is a great script, but it is low budget. And I didn't have the time to do that because I was doing my first TV job, which was the ABC Murders. And I was like, I haven't got the time to produce this, nor did Helen need another producer, but I can exec it and I can help her and support her. And that's what we did. And it was, but I read the script and I had to like the script to begin with. and the script was cracking. It was
Yeah.
a really great, fun, energetic script, and it was a pleasure to work with Helen and with Harry, and the cast they pulled together was fantastic. I think it's Dan Hubbard, and
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that script. And again, you have to love it because you got to pick up the phone and support people. And Helen really went through a journey to make that. I mean, they woke up one day and it was snowing. It's all supposed to be the same day, and you're like, oh God. And she rang me up and I said, look, in New York when that happened, everybody just got the shovels out. You ring everybody, say, those who can make it to work, come to work, but don't risk your safety. And then you just get out with the shovels and the salt. And everybody just tries to get rid of the snow. I mean, you're from America, Wendy. It's like the crazy weather. It's like one day it's really bright, sunny, there's a big high sky. And then the next day, it's completely white and it snowed, and they have snow days, and then it's a sunny day the next day and it melts and it's gone. It's
Yeah, not
quite
good for continuity.
not good for continuity.
I'm hearing you talk. I'm really just reflecting that I think the best producers, have to have a creative passion and a love for film. They also have to be business people. And I'm wondering, how do you balance that? I mean, obviously you love writing, you love development, you love that creativity. But yeah, you also have to make sure that you come in on budget, on time. How do you balance that sort of financial and business side with the creative side? Do you think you're better at one or the other? Or are you great because you can do both? You can say you're great if you believe it.
No, I mean, I was described by finance director in a TV show that I worked on as being a 360 producer. That I can read budgets, I can do a schedule, and that comes from my line producing background. And it took a long time for me to shed that kind of that moniker of line producer,
Just a line producer type.
to
Yeah.
be a creative producer. And line producers are really creative. They're exceptional. They bring talent to the table in terms of HODs and crew. They know how to do magic with budget. It's called movie magic for a reason. It's the budgeting and the scheduling that can, bring so much more in terms of production value to the production. It's been, first of all, it's developing the script and developing the IP and having the trust of your the talent that you're working at, the writer, the director, and bringing them together and creating an area of trust where we can push the boundaries of what we're trying to do, and being able to point out when it does and doesn't make sense. And you're not always right, and you don't always have to have the right answer. TV has made me a much better producer, because in TV you have people coming into the room to tell you what's not working and suggest to you, and discussing about how do we make it work, because the crime elements are strong enough, or the love story isn't strong enough, or we've lost part of the war in this, or how do we bring back that story strand. And you've got so many people working together, each of them bringing the ideas, and it's not like some stranger just walked in and went, change that around, that doesn't work. It's like you sitting there and you're working, and there's no such thing as a stupid idea, and you're kind of trying to figure it out, and you're plotting, and you're looking at the breaks. You've got an ad break at 10 minutes and at 20 minutes, and you need to have a cliffhanger, the 10-minute point, to bring them back the next point. And actually it's a bit like, after 10 minutes an audience might turn off a film, they'll switch to something else, or because not everybody's going into the cinema and always prepared to sit through. They're watching it on platforms, they're paying to watch it, they're watching it on planes, and they'll switch off. So you've got to have, every 10 minutes you've really got to hook your audience in. And that's a skill that I'm developing more and more and getting better at, and also bringing in the right people to be better at it. So I'm working on one particular film that's genre. So I'm working with Ed King, who is just, I think, an exceptional, producer and particularly in his development and his understanding of genre. I mean, his film, His House.
Oh, goodness. Yes.
And I think that they developed that from, with Martin, his producing partner. So yeah, I consider him, and I count him one of my producing partners. And then there's Camille Gattam that I'm working with, and she's great too. And we share the load. And sometimes I have more connections because I've been doing a BAFTA Rockcliff on children and YA and family films. So I know who's looking for family stuff at the moment, and who are the new voices, and the scripts come in. And I read a lot of not great scripts. Or I read a lot of scripts at the early stages through Rockcliffe. So it's great to see how they develop and grow, and listening to those voices in the room at those juries talking about the material that appeals to them and what doesn't, from a personal level, and what they think is wrong with it and what could be, made stronger in it, and all those things. I feel like a sponge. I'm just soaking it all up. So I know how to read a budget, and I know how to look at a schedule, and I know how to come up with suggestions that will help to do this. And I know in the UK where to go with, for funding. Film 4 do a very specific kind of film. The BBC do a very specific kind of film. Mubi and Shudder and Netflix. And you do your research in Amazon. They all have their own kind of voice. Same with the broadcasters. And it's very clear to me now that part of my job is to make the script, my package work, and part of it is to make it work financially, and that those two meet.
Yeah.
And on low budget stuff, you can push the boundaries. You can really push the boundaries because you're having to invent to make it work and be a great piece of work, but with a lower budget. And so it's marrying that creativity together. So a budget and financing and all that kind of stuff is just as creative as making the script and the story. So,
And I'm really curious. You started out in independent feature film and shorts and did all kinds of stuff, but you've done these two quite big TV projects, which I mentioned are ABC Murders, that was on BBC One, and Singapore Broke, that was on ITV. Did you enjoy the sort of pace and the schedule of TV? Do you think you'll do more TV?
yeah, I'm doing more TV. I'm doing more TV at the moment.
Did
Very,
you
very.
enjoy the paycheck of TV? Is it better for
No,
career building?
I mean, yeah, we all know that the paycheck helps.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But also, I was very lucky. I've made money for my feature films. So, Irreplaceable You sold to Netflix. So I got paid for that, as opposed to, $5,000 over 3 or 4 years for the joy of working on something that you really believe in your heart and soul in. So TV, yeah, it does pay. And I think the divide that used to be between TV and film, it's less because we are consuming so much more TV in a very different way. I mean, The Queen's Gambit was cinematically beautiful. Even though it was a small screen production, it was absolutely stunning. The ABC Murders, I'm incredibly proud of because we had A-list stars, people I've looked at on cinema for years, like Tara Fitzgerald. I mean, incredible actress. I grew up with her. She was the person you wanted to be. Um, to John Malkovich, who I never expected to be sending Christmas cards to, and occasionally getting a phone call going, "Hello, dear." It's like, it's mad, but that happened because of TV, and I'm so fortunate. And I think people are looking at TV in a very different way. The new Pope, it's great, but is it any better or any less than the two popes? No, it's not. They're just different stories told in a very different way. So the ABC Murders was incredible. I work in high-end TV, and with, quite big stars and with great production values. And I have the money and the resources and the time to be able to make things in the way that when you have everything at your disposal and there's somebody doing every job that you've been doing up to now, it's actually like, I mean, it's highly pressured and you've got to keep your eye on everything, but it's very different. It's like, the post-production supervisor said, "I know you've done the post on your films before, but honestly, that's what we're here for." I'm like, "Oh, really?" Thank you. You kind of feel really grateful going, "Oh, you do that? Oh, okay." Fine.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I had to have the line producer sit me down and kind of explain to me the things that I didn't need to do. And
Right.
that,
You've got resources now, Farah. You can use them. Um,
yeah, and it also allows you to step back and do things that you like. Like I like to negotiate the actors deals. That's something that I've always, because I know that that's where you can save, or not save, but you can be really clever at. You can get, because you need those people to make us tune in and watch what we're doing. And you know, I got to go to Malaysia for a year. But you know, you wanted to ask me about how did the Malaysian thing, and all I could talk about is the weather. I am still
hot.
traumatized by the weather. Every time the wind picks up, even when I'm outside today, it's like the wind picks up. I kind of feel like I need to run for shelter because there's going to be a deluge of about 2 feet high within about 10 minutes. So I always seek higher ground whenever I feel the wind blowing. And that's because of the tropical storms where it literally
Which
was.
can be hard to seek higher ground in London, I think. Maybe you're going to the top of Belsize Park or Hampstead Hill or something.
I start to climb a tree.
Yeah, okay, yes. You know, I've known you for, I don't know, a decade or more, and I've always just really admired you have this sort of DIY spirit. You're a real connector of people. But I always was sort of what it didn't seem like you were in that pool of people who were sort of seal of approval from, let's say, the BFI. So this is quite maybe a delicate question.
Well, I
And
kind of
I see now
that now.
you have a Vision Award from the BFI, which is fantastic. I love that they give producers these Vision Awards to help develop their companies, their slates, them as people. A wonderful initiative from the BFI. So I guess I'm wondering, you know, do you weren't born in the UK, you do very international work also. Do you feel at home in the UK as a producer? Is it frustrating being here? Do you feel the warm embrace of the BFI now?
I think, I mean, look, I think I have myself slightly to blame for that as well, in terms of the projects that I was bringing them and not bringing them, but thinking I was bringing them. I think that that's something, you know, when the UK Film Council was there, I had support from them to finish No Deposit, No Return, a short film, that the one I took to Cannes that we talked about, where I asked every man to donate their sperm. And, you know, the UK Film Council gave me the money to finish it. Um, I felt that I didn't know how to get in. And I did feel for a long time like my face didn't fit and that they were supporting certain kind of filmmakers. But I have to look back and ask myself, how much was I engaging with them? How many applications was I putting in to them for funding for feature films? Um, why? I guess because I think I expected them to kind of come to me in some way, or to embrace me, or to have a meeting with me, or, and I had to change my approach. And I did a training course back in 2016, 2015, 2015, 2016, which was called, and I think you remember it because you were one of the people talking on it.
Ah.
What was it called? It was Create, no,
Oh, was it the Creative England one?
Trader.
Market Trader, yes, great initiative.
I did Market Trader. And I kind of, from that, having sort of, you know, the incredible, you know, people that they have on that, and the guidance that you get, I suddenly realized it wasn't that I wasn't fitting in, because I wasn't applying myself in the way that the industry expected me. My ability wasn't in question.
Hmm.
It was more how I presented myself, I think. And once I learned, oh, is that it? Is that what you do? Oh, and it's like, you know, having a, you know, a deck, having a portfolio, a slate where you list your projects by, you know, genre, the period, the location, a one line synopsis, comparable titles, being able to just do that and showing that on a sheet of paper in the most simplistic of ways, and then applying for funding, just applying for funding, filling in that application form and just doing it. And I think that somehow I wasn't giving my self permission. So if I look back, I didn't fit in, but I don't think I was doing anything to support myself to do that. And I think when I got the BAFTA nomination, and then when I had, you know, the Screen Stars, the 2017, which was incredible, because for 2 days, I was one of the most read articles, just my profiles. You pointed it out to me, and I was like, oh,
You were the most read thing on Screen Daily for a while. So yeah, that's hats off to Finn Halligan, the Stars of Tomorrow curator, for
I love that.
recognizing your talent early. Yes.
She was great, and she really acknowledged that, and it changed everything, because there was my career in black and white, showing all this backlog of work that I wasn't necessarily showing, going, this is what I've done and this is what I'm doing now. And at the time I just made Irreplaceable You in New York, and I hadn't quite realized the magnitude of having Netflix buy your film. I just thought we weren't getting a theatrical release.
No.
But I will tell you something funny. So when that film was a $1 million movie, we had our contracts that were all drawn up, and we put in it that it was first class travel for us and a friend to the premiere, never expecting that to happen. And, an accommodation and all those kind of things. And so when Netflix sent me over the details of the premiere, and they were like, very kindly, sent over about the flights and stuff. And I sent them a little sort of screen grab of my contract going, by the way, I have to be flown first class, and so does my friend, and we need to be put up. And bless them, they did. And my friend was in Ireland. She's a catering chef, and she got picked up in a limo from her mother's, because she went to stay with her mom's because she was getting up so early, and driven to the airport and flown first class to New York. And then I pointed out, by the way, my friend is not my partner, she's my friend, so we need separate rooms. So I ended up with a penthouse. And we had a helicopter pad in between, and there were two turrets, and she had one turret and I had the other turret, and it was just a bit mad. And then,
well, this is what you deserve for this is producers never get to fly first class. You know this, so enjoy it if somebody's paying.
Yeah, and quite a few sort of A-list actors have said to me, we never get first class to anything. How did you wangle that? And I went, put it into my contract. But I think there's probably a caveat that says, even if it's a contract that you did with yourself, you can't put in that you're going first class.
Maybe business class, premium economy, given, current budget levels,
Or given the fact that there's probably no flights.
Yeah, so, well, right now we can't fly, but
you could have the whole plane to yourself. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a bit of a journey in that way. And I'm probably gone off topic. But again, I don't think until I started really looking at my slate, sitting down, and then, I asked Ben Roberts to have a cup of tea with me. And it happened to be the day that it was announced that Irreplaceable You was a Netflix film. And I said, oh, that's my movie. And he went, oh, I saw that today. I didn't realize that was yours. And I went, yeah, that's mine. And that started a different conversation. But I was saying to him, look, this is the work I've done. And it was Follicker and O'Reilly who did that introduction. And I think it's so important that we as producers, help each other, support each other, mention, other producers to people within these organizations, and bring them to their attention, and share those kind of, you don't have to give people's email addresses away, but certainly go, have you heard of this person? Because I'm always mentioning other producers when I'm in meetings with different people.
You've name dropped even today about 30 people who you admire or work with. And I think that, knowing you, that is so who you are, a connector of people. You're always telling me, oh, do you know this producer, or talk to this person for your article, or there's a casting director that's doing something cool on Twitter. Why don't you write about that for Screen? I mean, you're such a connector. And I think we need more of that. So thank you.
You do the same. So
I connect some people, And
I think
if they're nice, only if they're nice.
Yeah, you have to have the nice caveat. Yeah. But I don't know of anybody that I can say out there who, people talk about sharks and stuff in this. I don't know of any. I've heard of some. Yeah. I've luckily not worked with them. I've certainly been in their presence. And
you can tell me after we stop recording who you really
know. I think we all know who, the baddies that they have been exposed of late. Yeah. But I think it is a time when we have to check all of our own behavior, and me included. When have I, been in a bad mood, or do it? Sometimes as a producer, you feel like every time somebody talks to you, that it's just going to be about something bad, and you have to kind of mind yourself. And this is as much for other people that you're working with, that you're not constantly always going in with your defenses up to every meeting, because it's going to be something bad, or people are going to, ask you for money, or because you just come across as being, you know, somebody with your guards up and being defensive and being not the kind of nice kind of person that you are to do business. I mean, I look at people like Natasha Dack. She is always pleasant, always calm, always, you know, brilliant in her approach. But, you know, when I've gone to her for advice, she's had experiences similar to the ones that I have that have been trying and difficult. But there is that thing that we do need to really look after ourselves, because how we manage our own kind of stress levels is how people respond to us. And, you know, you do have to have your boundaries and know when things have crossed the line, and address them quietly to somebody. And I'm learning that all the time. I'm learning how to do that more and more, you know, being able to approach people and say, look, you know, what's going on, you know, with you. And I think that's so important, that we kind of allow ourselves to approach people and have a conversation. It doesn't need to be in front of everybody, but for our own sanity and our own sort of well-being, um, I think we
Yeah.
have to change the way we're behaving and mind our own behavior as well.
And you know, it has to be a collaborative business, because independent producing is very lonely if you've got a one woman shop. You know, I think you've got to rely on friends and colleagues as well. I could talk to you all day, obviously, but I'm going to do sort of a more rapid fire ending of maybe 3 questions that I really want to ask. Maybe this is how I'm going to end all of these. We'll see. What is one thing about producing that you think people don't understand? If you're not a producer, you just don't know, or people just sort of get it wrong. They think a producer does this and they don't. Can you think of one thing?
I think that one thing is that people don't know what producers do. I
Yeah.
think many things is just summed up in that. I mean, you know, it's like when we're in production, this may be to everybody. It's like we can't just go home, you know, fly off for a birthday party, you know, back home, you know, we're in the middle of a shoot. It's like really big sacrifices have had to be made. It's a bit like being a pilot. You can't get off mid-flight. You know, it's like,
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
that's because
producers do so much. Yeah.
my best friend's a pilot, and it was her birthday, her 40th birthday, and I couldn't go to it. And she's like, "What? Can't you just leave early or something?" And I went, uh, "Your husband's a pilot. You're a pilot. You can't leave mid-flight. It's like can't just walk out." So yeah.
Indeed. What is a pet peeve you have about people's behavior on set? What should you not do on a film set?
Um,
I've got one, which is wear loud shoes. Wear comfy shoes that don't make any noise while you're clattering around.
I always wear heels.
Do
Uh,
you?
yeah, I always wear heels and dresses. I mean, I like turn up into a field full of mud in one of my floral dresses. I've been
Well, okay, hats off. Be yourself, we should say. But yeah, I wear comfy shoes when I visit. Yeah.
putting away your rubbish, putting away your rubbish, like your cups, recycling your cups, putting away your rubbish.
Well, now you have to have a reusable water bottle anyway.
We
Oh,
do.
but not on a COVID set, actually, because you can't refill. So yeah, clean up after yourself.
Yes.
That's a good advice for being a human being, isn't it? In more ways than one. And yeah, just final question, and you can decide how much you can reveal. But we're talking in January 2021. What's coming up for you? What's next? And you know, that could be in terms of Rockcliffe, more books, more productions.
No more books for now.
Okay.
Um, I'm actually doing a TV series, which is going to be shot in the UK and Spain, which I'm very excited about. I want to do more stand-up paddleboarding. That's definitely on my agenda for 2021. I discovered that in 2020. I have three three feature films, all of which are kind of ready to go, but probably won't be shot till the end of the year or next year. And yeah, I keep going. I've got like things that I'm constantly juggling, and that are at various stages of development, that horrible phrase, but they are actually at various stages of development. Yeah, and I'm very, you know, any one of them will kick off. You just don't know. It's always the one you least expect. So I don't expect any of them. I'll just wait till one of them kicks off, and then that's the one I'm working on at that particular time.
Fantastic. And if people want to know more about Rockcliffe, the showcase, the competition, where do they find information? Is it rockcliffe.com?
Yeah, it's ROCLIFFE.com. And also I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Although my Instagram, it's mostly the walks I'm going on, and my cat,
And the cat.
my cat Stan, who I fostered before Christmas, who's now adopted me.
Oh,
Yeah.
bless.
So yes, that is something I will say. It's just a kind of general. I hate it when people approach me via Facebook.
Me
And
too. I love Facebook, as you know, but I don't like my email address is on my website. You can Google it. It's on the Screen Daily website. Don't send me a Facebook message.
yeah, that's really, it's my private space where I look at photos of my nieces, nephews, godchildren, and cats. So, yeah, it
So
is.
it's pretty easy to find out how to get in touch with you. So yeah, people use Farah's professional channels,
Yeah.
but I can attest that she is somebody who gives back, who will offer you advice if she can. Yeah, so Farah is a connector. Thank you, Farah, for joining us. Um, thank you for sharing your adventures in producing. Is that cheesy enough as a sign off? And I can't wait to see what your next adventures are. So good luck.
Yeah, falling off a stand-up paddleboard.
What a note to end.